Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful for You channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The news hit Steffi like a bolt of lightning out of a clear sky, sudden, electrifying, and impossible to ignore. She had been in her office at Forrester Creations, going over sketches for the upcoming line, when the words tumbled out of Thomas's mouth. He hadn't even meant to say it. It just slipped out in one of those accidental bursts of honesty that changed everything. "Did you hear about Hope and Liam?" he asked casually, flipping through fabric samples. "They're engaged again." At first, Steffi froze, her hand pausing midair above the design board. Her eyes slowly lifted, searching Thomas's face for a trace of a smirk, a hint that he was joking. But there was none. Her brother looked serious, almost apologetic. The color drained from her face as the realization set in. Liam, the man who had claimed to love her, the man who had sworn she was his forever, was now pledging himself to Hope, again. For a moment, Steffi couldn't breathe. The room felt too small, the air too heavy. Her heart pounded with disbelief, anger, and something deeper, a raw, throbbing pain that felt both familiar and unbearable. When she finally spoke, her voice was tight and controlled, every word trembling beneath the surface. "He what?" she demanded, each syllable sharp as glass. Thomas repeated it gently, as if that would make it hurt less. "He proposed to Hope. They're back together, and it's serious this time." Serious. That word echoed in her mind like a cruel reminder of how many times Liam's heart had swung back and forth between them. Steffi tried to keep her composure, but rage was building under her skin like a storm. She had spent months rebuilding her life, her confidence, her career, her relationship with Finn, and now, just when everything seemed steady, Liam had the nerve to announce a shiny new engagement to Hope, the woman who had always been her rival in love. What made it worse was that Hope still worked for Forrester Creations. Hope for the Future was still part of the same company that Steffi ran. The overlap between business and personal life had always been messy, but this crossed the line. The image of Hope flashing an engagement ring around the Forrester office made Steffi's blood boil. She stormed out of the office, ignoring Thomas's call behind her. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble floor as she made her way toward the Hope for the Future design room. When she arrived, she didn't bother knocking. She pushed the door open, and there they were, Hope and Liam, standing close, her hand resting on his chest, her eyes glowing with happiness. The engagement ring glittered under the fluorescent light like a weapon aimed right at Steffi's heart. For a split second, neither of them noticed her. They were lost in their little bubble of affection, whispering about wedding plans and how this time everything would be different. Then Hope turned, saw Steffi, and the color drained from her face. Liam stiffened, instinctively stepping between them, but Steffi didn't even glance at him. Her focus was entirely on Hope. "Is it true?" she asked, her voice trembling with restrained fury. Hope hesitated, then nodded proudly, holding out her hand. "Yes, it's true. Liam and I are engaged." The word snapped something inside Steffi. She took a step forward, her eyes blazing. "Unbelievable," she hissed. "You just couldn't help yourself, could you, Hope? You couldn't stand seeing me happy, seeing Liam move on with his life, with me, so you wormed your way back into his heart again." Hope immediately protested, shaking her head. "That's not fair, Steffi. Liam made his own choice. We love each other, and this time it's real." But Steffi let out a bitter laugh, full of disbelief. "Real? You said that every time before. You've been recycling the same fairy tale for years, and every single time, you end up hurting everyone around you. Do you even realize what you're doing to him? To me? To this company?" Liam tried to interject, but Steffi turned on him with fire in her eyes. "And you? You never change. You run from one woman to the next like you're lost, and every time you do, people get caught in your mess. You say you love Hope, then you say you love me. You make promises, then break them the minute something feels complicated. Well, not this time, Liam. Not under my roof. Her tone shifted, colder now, sharper, more like the CEO she had become. She folded her arms, glancing at Hope's ring again before delivering the blow. You work for me, Hope. You're standing in my building, on my payroll. And I won't have this kind of chaos distracting my team or poisoning the atmosphere. So here's what's going to happen. Her eyes narrowed, and she leaned in slightly, her voice low but laced with authority. You're going to end this engagement, or you're fired. The silence that followed was deafening. Hope's jaw dropped, her eyes wide with shock. You can't be serious, she whispered, her voice trembling. You can't fire me because I'm engaged to Liam. But Steffi didn't flinch. Watch me, she said coldly. I built this company from the ground up, and I won't let your personal drama destroy what we've created. You can either be with Liam or keep your job. You can't have both. Liam stepped forward, his expression darkening. Steffi, you can't do this. That's abuse of power. But Steffi's voice was like steel. No, Liam. This is me protecting my company. I've seen what happens when emotions spill into business, and I'm not going to let it happen again. Not after everything we've all been through. Hope's eyes filled with tears. You're punishing me for falling in love, she said quietly. You're punishing me for being happy. Steffi laughed bitterly. Happy? You think this makes you happy? This isn't happiness, Hope. This is déjà vu. It's the same tired story we've been living for over a decade. And I'm done being part of it. She turned toward the door, her voice trembling slightly now, a hint of vulnerability breaking through the rage. You've already taken enough from me. Don't make me take something from you too. The tension in the room was suffocating. Hope's engagement ring seemed to mock Steffi, glinting in the light like a cruel reminder of what she had lost. But beneath the anger, Steffi was battling something deeper, heartbreak. Despite everything, a part of her still loved Liam. She had tried to bury it, to move on with Finn, to build a family and a future that didn't depend on the endless triangle that had defined her life for so long. But seeing Liam with Hope again reopened every wound she thought had healed. It wasn't just about jealousy or competition, it was about betrayal. She had believed Liam when he said he was done with Hope. She had believed that maybe, just maybe, they had finally closed that chapter for good. Now, it was like the universe was laughing at her. Every time she tried to step forward, Hope and Liam found a way to drag her back into the past. Later that day, Steffi sat alone in her office, staring out the window as the sun set over Los Angeles. The city lights blurred through her tears, and she pressed a trembling hand to her temple. She could still hear the echo of her own words, leave Liam or I'll fire you, and part of her wondered if she'd gone too far. But another part of her felt justified. She wasn't just a woman scorned, she was a leader trying to protect her legacy. Forrester Creations had survived scandals, affairs, and betrayals, but she refused to let this be the next one. Not when she had worked so hard to rebuild the company's reputation. When Thomas knocked and entered quietly, she didn't look up. You really said that to her? He asked softly. Steffi nodded, her eyes still on the horizon. I meant every word. Thomas hesitated before responding. You know this isn't really about the company, right? He said gently. This is about Liam. About how he keeps hurting you. Steffi finally turned to face him, her expression hardening again. Maybe. But it's also about self-respect. I won't sit back and let Hope flaunt her engagement in my face while pretending everything's fine at work. If she wants him, she can have him. But she's not going to stand in my building and act like that's acceptable. Thomas sighed, sensing that arguing would be pointless. He could see the pain behind her anger, the mix of love, pride, and exhaustion that came from years of fighting the same emotional battle. As night fell, Steffi leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes. She thought about Finn, about the man who loved her unconditionally, who had stood by her through every storm. She knew she needed to focus on him, on her children, on the life she had built outside of Liam's chaos. But the ghost of her past refused to let go. She whispered to herself, I'm not losing everything again. Not this time. The line between business and personal life had blurred too many times before, and she was determined to draw it now, even if it meant burning a few bridges along the way. The next morning, the tension inside Forrester Creations was palpable. Gossip spread fast, and soon everyone knew that Steffi had threatened to fire Hope. Brooke stormed into Steffi's office not long after, demanding answers. "You have no right to threaten my daughter," she snapped. Steffi didn't back down. "Your daughter has no right to use this company as her personal playground," she shot back. "If she wants to marry Liam, that's her choice. But not while she's working here. Not while it affects everyone else." Brooke's face turned red with fury. "You're acting like a jealous little girl," she said. "You can't stand that Liam chose Hope again." Steffi's voice dropped to a whisper, deadly calm. "Maybe I am jealous. But that doesn't change the truth. This engagement will cause chaos, and I won't let that happen under my leadership." As Brooke stormed out, slamming the door behind her, Steffi finally exhaled. She knew this war wasn't over, not by a long shot. Hope and Liam would fight back, and Brooke would rally behind them. But Steffi had made her stand. She wasn't just a woman caught in an endless love triangle anymore. She was a leader, a mother, a fighter, and she was done letting the past dictate her future. Whether it cost her friendships, family, or even her reputation, she would protect what she had built. And if Hope thought she could have it all, the man, the job, the fairy tale, she was about to learn that in Steffi Forrester's world, there were always consequences. But the storm Steffi had unleashed wasn't just confined to her office, it spread through the halls of Forrester Creations like wildfire. By noon, whispers were everywhere. Designers in the sewing room paused mid-stitch to gossip in hushed tones. Assistants peeked around corners, trying to catch glimpses of Hope's reaction. Even Ridge and Eric heard the news before Steffi had a chance to brace herself. When her father appeared in her doorway later that day, his expression was one of equal parts concern and disappointment. "Steffi, what have you done?" Ridge asked quietly, closing the door behind him. "I heard from Brooke. You threatened to fire Hope over her engagement?" Steffi straightened her posture, the CEO mask slipping back into place. "I didn't threaten her," she said firmly. "I gave her a choice. Her personal life is interfering with her work, again, and I won't let it destroy this company." Ridge studied her, his brow furrowing. "Sweetheart, I understand you want to protect Forrester, but this isn't the way to do it. You can't mix personal resentment with business policy." His words were calm, but they cut deep. Steffi felt a flicker of defensiveness rise up. "This isn't personal," she insisted, though even she could hear the emotion in her voice. "I'm tired of watching Hope and Liam's relationship tear through everything it touches. It's toxic, Dad. You know it. Every time they get together, someone ends up hurt, and this time, it's going to affect the whole company." Ridge sighed and took a seat across from her. "You sound just like I used to when I was trying to control everything around me. Believe me, it doesn't work. You can't fix people by forcing them to make choices they're not ready for." Steffi's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "Then what am I supposed to do? Sit back and watch history repeat itself? Watch Liam string both of us along again until everyone's lives are in pieces?" Ridge reached across the desk, resting his hand over hers. "No. You protect yourself. You love your husband. You focus on your family. That's how you win, not by fighting Hope." For a long moment, Steffi said nothing. Ridge's words echoed in her mind, but the anger still burned too hot to let go. "You don't get it," she finally whispered. "Every time I think I've moved on, something pulls me back. I thought Liam was finally out of my life for good. Then I find out he's engaged to Hope again, after everything she did, after everything we all went through. It's like she's haunting me." Ridge's voice softened. "Then maybe it's time to let that ghost go." The advice was sound, but Steffi wasn't ready to hear it. "Not yet." She nodded faintly, dismissing her father with a promise to think about it, but deep down she knew her resolve hadn't wavered. Hope had crossed a line, and Steffi intended to make sure she faced the consequences. Meanwhile, down the hall, Hope sat in the design room, her head in her hands. The diamond on her ring finger caught the light, but for the first time, it didn't sparkle with joy, it felt heavy, almost mocking. Liam sat beside her, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "She can't fire you, Hope," he said, trying to sound confident. "She's angry right now, but she'll cool off. This is Steffi we're talking about, she lashes out, then she thinks it through." But Hope wasn't so sure. "You didn't see her face, Liam," she murmured. "She meant it. She's not just jealous, she's determined. And if she really wants me gone, she'll find a way to make it happen." Liam took her hand gently. "Then we'll fight her together." Hope's eyes met his, but she couldn't help the flicker of doubt that passed through her mind. She loved Liam, she truly did, but deep down she knew Steffi wasn't entirely wrong. Their relationship had always been complicated, messy, full of history that refused to stay buried. Even as Liam promised her forever, she could feel the ghost of Steffi lingering between them. And now, that ghost was no longer silent, it was furious, alive, and sitting in the CEO's chair. That night, Hope went home to Brooke, seeking comfort. Her mother's reaction was as fiery as expected. "She said what?" Brooke exclaimed, pacing across the living room. "How dare she? She can't use her power at Forrester to manipulate you like that. I'll talk to Ridge, I'll make sure this ends now." But Hope shook her head. "No, Mom. Please don't. That'll just make things worse. Steffi already thinks I'm getting special treatment because of you." Brooke stopped and looked at her daughter, her expression softening. "Honey, you don't deserve this. You've worked so hard to rebuild your life. If Steffi wants to live in the past, that's on her." Hope wanted to believe that, but part of her understood Steffi's anger. Maybe she would feel the same way if the situation were reversed, if it were Finn leaving Steffi for her. But knowing that didn't make it easier. The next morning, she walked into Forrester Creations with her head held high, determined to stay professional. When she arrived at her office, she found a sealed envelope on her desk. Her stomach dropped as she recognized the Forrester letterhead. Inside was a formal HR notice, a performance review meeting scheduled for that afternoon. It wasn't an official termination, but the implication was clear. When she entered the meeting later that day, Steffi was already there, sitting at the head of the table with her arms crossed. Carter Walton, the company's legal counsel, was beside her, trying to maintain neutrality. "Hope," Steffi began, her tone clipped. "This isn't personal. This is a business matter." Hope gave a small, humorless laugh. "You mean because I'm engaged to Liam?" Carter looked uncomfortable, glancing between them. "Ladies, let's try to keep this professional," but Steffi cut him off. "I am keeping it professional. Hope's personal life has become a distraction. Her designs, her meetings, her deadlines, everything has taken a back seat to this engagement. And I won't allow it to continue." Hope stood, her eyes blazing with quiet strength. "You're not protecting Forrester, Steffi. You're protecting your ego. You can pretend this is about work, but we both know it's not. You hate that Liam chose me again. You hate that he's happy, that we're happy. And that's why you're doing this." Steffi's voice rose. "You think this is about happiness? You have no idea what it's like to be me, to watch the man you love keep running back to the same person who broke your heart over and over again. I'm not jealous, Hope, I'm done. Done watching you and Liam destroy everything in your path." For a moment, Carter seemed ready to step in, but both women were too far gone. Hope's voice trembled, but she stood tall. "Then maybe you should stop blaming me for your own choices. You chose to love Liam. You chose to give him chance after chance. I'm not the one who kept the door open, you are." The words hit Steffi hard. She clenched her fists, struggling to keep her composure. "You can go," she said finally, her tone icy. "We're done here." Hope left the room with tears stinging her eyes, but there was also a flicker of resolve in her heart. She wasn't going to let Steffi intimidate her. If she had to fight for her job, for her happiness, she would. Meanwhile, back in her office, Steffi slumped into her chair, the weight of everything crashing down on her. She had pushed hope, maybe too far. But the pain that came with Liam's name never seemed to fade. Just then, her phone buzzed, a text from Finn. Heard about what happened. You okay? She stared at the message for a long time before replying, I don't know. That night, Finn came home to find Steffi sitting by the window, still dressed in her work clothes. You look exhausted, he said softly, setting down his bag. She didn't respond right away. Finally, she looked up at him, her eyes red. I thought I was past it, she whispered. I thought Liam didn't have this hold on me anymore. But seeing them together, it broke something inside me. Finn crossed the room and knelt beside her. You're human, Steffi. It's okay to feel angry. But don't let that anger consume you. Don't let it undo everything we've built. She leaned her head against his shoulder, silent tears falling. I don't want to lose myself again, she said quietly. I worked so hard to move forward. Finn wrapped his arms around her. Then keep moving forward. Leave Liam and Hope behind, where they belong. But even as she nodded, Steffi knew it wouldn't be that simple. The triangle that had defined her life for so long still loomed like a shadow she couldn't escape. And as Forrester Creations braced for the fallout of her ultimatum, one thing was certain, the battle between Steffi and Hope was far from over. The engagement had reignited old wounds, reopened buried emotions, and set off a chain reaction that would shake not just their personal lives, but the very foundations of Forrester Creations itself. The war had begun again, only this time, it wasn't just for Liam's heart. It was for power, pride, and the right to finally stand on top without being haunted by the past. And as Steffi stared out into the Los Angeles night, her reflection shimmering against the glass, she whispered to herself, almost like a vow, no one takes my future from me, not again.